You are listening to Ras Temari Radio, Offense Necessary, where we discuss everything but politics. We're back with two of our good friends of the show, Surafel and Nahom.
What's up?
Hello.
Hello to both of you. Nahom, this is your first time on.
This is my first time on.
Yeah, but Sura is returning a veteran.
Yes.
How was one time? He was saying the same thing. How was one time a veteron?
That's how it works.
He's lost his virginity to you, but that doesn't mean,
Well,
That makes you a veteran.
Relatively, I'm a
By
veteran.
definition. Thank you so much for both of you for making the time to come back on. I know you both had a hard day's work. Both of you work in advertising, correct?
We both work in advertising.
And so I'll launch the question to both of you. What is something that you have learned, the both of you, or separately, recently, that you've taught yourself recently?
Ironically, I think it is mutually learned.
Yeah.
In a non-weird way. It's NFTs. Actually, cryptocurrency for me. I kind of went into a whole spiral of going down the rabbit hole. I was Alice for a moment. Yes, started with NFTs and then went straight into cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But for me, it was the reverse. It was the inverse. I started with cryptocurrency a while back. It seemed like an interesting investment. And it was bubbling at that point. Then recently I had kind of gone out of the loop of cryptocurrency the past 6 months to 8 months. Then I started reading about NFTs and digital what's it called?
Digital art?
Digital art and digital this metaverse.
Tokens, non-fungible tokens. Okay.
Yeah, that's what NFT stands for, non-fungible tokens, which mean...
Fungible is a very nice word to say. So yeah, it's fungible and non-fungible. So every tutorial you see about NFTs, they like describing the word. So it's all about non-fungible tokens means something that you cannot replicate in a way.
Right.
Mm.
So what you're showing is you have a token, which is either an art piece or a coin, even a GIF or a GIF, whichever way you want to go with that. And then it's more about...
As in the format for imaging.
Yes.
GIF, yeah.
Yeah. That or a video even. And then what it is you only have one copy of it. So basically the one thing that was sold a while ago was the first tweet by the Twitter owner, whose name I keep forgetting every time. So
Jack Dorsey?
Jack Dorsey.
Right.
So Jack Dorsey's first tweet was actually sold as an NFT for around, I think it was $6,000. It was like, it's very expensive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as relative to other NFTs, that's not really expensive.
Yeah.
So some NFTs have gone for millions of dollars.
So this is like an image, a graphic, or digital product that people consume as an artwork and therefore are willing to pay large amounts of money for.
Yeah.
And when we say consume, are people hanging Jack Dorsey's first tweet on their wall, or are they doing it on their screensaver, or what?
I mean, you can do whatever you want to with it. You can print it. You can have it as a phone screensaver, laptop background. But essentially, the original artwork is an NFT. It's a digital product you can keep with you.
But how do you make sure that it's exclusive? So, for instance, there's one Mona Lisa. People can take as many pictures as they want as Mona Lisa, but the Mona Lisa itself is invaluable. Right? As opposed to the pictures, which are have no value. So, what's the distinction here between?
So imagine a baseball card. A baseball card that was printed a baseball card of Nahom that was printed, and it only has 10 copies.
Correct.
Versus a baseball card of me that was printed and it has 1,000 copies. So by effect, that kind of gives it value by itself, right? The amount of NFTs that are minted gives it value by itself. So the Twitter comment,
You're saying that fewer is better.
Some are few, some are...
I checked on that too. So what he's talking about is minting. So it's when you make whatever digital thing that you have available to be sold, you have to quote unquote mint it. And by the way, side note, Jack Dorsey's Twitter post, it was sold for $2.9 million, not $6,000.
Okay, and that's because there's only one? That's why the value's so high?
Exactly.
Yeah. Supply and demand kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of, but the irony of this is, so let's say, the JPEGs or the actual JPEG of his tweet You can download it right now.
Right, for nothing.
You can screenshot it and just download it.
So you can right-click and download it. You don't even have to do much.
Why is this person paying 2.9 million? And do we know who it was? Who now?
It's usually...
Yeah, it was someone, anonymous. A millionaire. Oh, okay. I think it was a billionaire.
Oh, it's not anonymous, this guy?
I don't think so.
But most of these NFT purchases are strictly anonymous because it's done through cryptocurrency.
Could it be Jack Dorsey himself, like to increase his own brand?
Honestly speaking, if he could do that. He could buy his own thing.
That was cool.
Yeah, no.
He could buy his own NFT for $1 billion, and there's no way of finding out if he did it or not, unless again he
it's like he's buying it wholesale and he can sell it again. Once he's driven up the price.
Yeah.
From all the, oh my goodness, my JPEGs were 2.9, but nobody knows who it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then someone's offering 3.1.
Right.
It could happen.
So the whole get of this thing is that there only needs to be one. So if you mint two, check that thing. So what we saw was we were looking at NFTs with Surafel, and then we found out that there's different ways of minting. So there's one of a kind, which is just one, and then there's up to 10, up to 100,000.
But the more you mint, the more copies, generally the price goes down.
Exactly, but they are not NFTs; they're just tokens. So in order for it to be an NFT, you only need to mint one. So basically, there's just one of a kind, digitally speaking. Meaning, if we were to feed this to a computer, it would definitely differentiate the right-click downloaded version that you have versus the original one.
Right now, older people are listening to this going, this is what happens when you raise a generation of children on video games. And then you hand them the reins to the economy, right? I mean, minting, it's like the Mario Brothers where you start knocking your head up against the thing at the top and the coins start flying out.
Yeah, basically that's what you're doing.
No, it's not. You want to know why? Because, fine, back in the actual art, the Renaissance period.
Yeah.
There's a reason why painters became a thing, right? They weren't actually selling their artworks. That was never a thing. They were selling these things just to keep. They were like a portfolio. It was a very nice 3-year consuming artwork of a portfolio.
They were being commissioned back in the day. They weren't selling.
But they were being commissioned because first they'd do some art, they'd showcase it to some lord or something, and then this dude would be like, yep, draw my face along with my family. And then they would commission them and then give them money to draw paintings of either them or their family or a church. Apparently, church really used to give them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So selling and buying art was never an actual thing.
Right.
That thing came along, I think I read this somewhere, which was like art sellers.
Yeah, art dealers.
Curators? Not curators.
Not curators.
Art dealers.
Art dealers, that's the word I was looking for. So the art dealers were the ones that made having and possessing art an actual symbol status. So there was actually one famous guy. I don't remember if it was. I read this. It's either two books which are very opposite. It's either The Tipping Point or Pimp. I don't know which one it is.
I think it's The Tipping Point, but
I'm pretty sure it's Pimp. The story of Iceberg Slim.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dave Chappelle talks about this book.
Okay.
So there's different cons that different people run, and on this instance. An art dealer was talking about how possessing a specific art piece was a symbol status because no one else has that. Although everyone has gone and seen it, everyone can replicate it, anyone can draw Mona Lisa again, but as much as they replicate it, it's still not the Mona Lisa, right?
Correct, right. That's what makes the value of the art is the context for it, the originality of it, not the thing itself. I mean, you go into a house and you look at a painting of a Jackson Pollock, and you go, "Oh, that's beautiful." I mean, if you like that kind of thing, and you go, "That's beautiful," but and they'll be like, "Oh, that's that's an imitation, right? But it's a beautiful copy." Okay, that might be some value to it, and then you go into a house and it's like that's an original Jackson Pollock. Okay, now you have a different experience of that house, of those people. You know what I mean? Like it's a different. That's why it's being valued differently. It's not for the thing you look at.
but you can print this, right? I mean, I can print this and then put it up in my wall, but no one.
Whatever size you want.
Then whatever size I want. I mean, it can be a fingerprint the size of Bigfoot's thumb. I'm hoping Bigfoot has big.
So you're basically saying it's not about the thing itself, right? So that's why for people like, well, wait a second, you can digitally copy any digital art. Yeah. Yes, but people know what the original is, regardless, right? Just like
a computer does.
Yeah, just like your digital signature is no different from anybody else typing your name in. Yeah. But the fact of you having been the one to place that signature has the same legal weight as you scribbling a handwritten signature, right? Yeah. Okay, so for those of us who are a little old-fashioned, we're wondering what do you mean by digital art and by somebody selling it. Okay, but okay, so crypto is used as currency, whereas something else has value as just a piece of art. Yeah. Now crypto had dipped a little bit, but as you guys said, I mean, it dipped significantly, but it was just a lull, and the bottom has not fallen out, as some people thought a couple of weeks ago. Still going up steeply. I mean, I first heard about crypto when I was a journalist in tech media. Okay. I worked for a company called United Business Media, and briefly, I was there very briefly, but briefly they were shuffling around what they wanted me to cover, and they were like, "How about you cover Bitcoin and crypto, right?" Because people were covering all these different, the use of supercomputers for data for
data farms and
that kind of stuff. And I don't understand a lot of this stuff, right? Okay. But I was more interested in enterprise, change the people aspect of it, right? Okay. But they give me crypto, and this is 2013.
2013.
Yeah. Okay. So this is about 9 years.
5 years after Bitcoin. Bitcoin was around 2007,
2008, right? Yeah. And it was starting to really, but I would say since then, if you invested then, you probably 100 times?
No, a lot more. Because that was I think back in 2013 it was still less than
Satoshi coins, right? It was like 0.00.
I think it was still less than $100.
Right.
By 2013.
Oh, by 2013.
Now it's what?
Yeah.
Now what's the value of Bitcoin?
3,000 something.
No. 30.
30,000.
30 something thousand. Okay. And this is after the dip because it had reached, I think, around 64,000.
Okay, so we're talking 64,000. You take out a couple of zeros. We're talking about 6,400 times. Yeah. Right. So if you put in $1, then at one point you were making about a return of 6,400. So you put $1,000. We're talking about having 64 million, something like that. Yeah. 6.4 or 64 million, right?
Right.
So it's easy million dollars. But for a lot of people, it was hard to conceptualize, right? Because it was like, well, nobody's really using Bitcoin, right? It's not really a currency. So it is pure speculation. But then again, so are so many other things.
Exactly.
Until the house falls apart. I mean, I have a good friend from college who went to China, married a Chinese woman. He's an American guy from a very conservative Midwestern background. Married a Chinese woman. He knows like 10,000 of the alphabet, the little pictures. And they're not really, it's not letters, right? They're pictures. And it was just like twice as many as the average person tries. So he's like an educator, So in a computer background, he goes there and he has a chain of... the last time I saw him, he came here actually, but before that we met up in New York because he was copying the cake bake, the pastry shops in Brooklyn, and because he has a chain of pastry shops in China, and it was very successful for that. So he's this kind of entrepreneur. But then
very interesting man.
But then he was telling me about like a horror story that somebody who worked for him was putting pieces of glass, shards of glass. So this was, of course, going to destroy his business because people were leaving with their mouths cut off. So he had to fire everybody and start over. These kinds of issues come up when you're doing entrepreneurship as a white American man. Apparently, right? So he tells me these kinds of stories. So on the side, he starts a cryptocurrency. It was called.
He started one.
Yeah. He had his own cryptocurrency. This guy's very. If he comes back to Addis, I'll introduce you guys. Yeah. He has friends from China who are here because of the Chinese community. Yeah. That's in Ethiopia. Somehow he has a whole bunch of friends he knows in China who and then there's me. Who he knows from college. But he was called Space Cash. Space Cash. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. It was like Space Cash. It's not my thing, right? So everybody was starting their own career. So for a lot of people, it was like, okay, if it was just Bitcoin, this whole story about Mark was about this. If it was just Bitcoin, that's one thing. There's a cryptocurrency that might take over the world.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But then we start hearing, I guess there's Bitcoin, and then there's like 11 billion others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's like what gives one. I mean, but this is also. I mean, that doesn't mean that they're not going to take over, right? Because automobile industry in America early on, there were like thousands. Everybody was starting their own automobile company in there. But in order for it to be sustained, as it went from thousands to within a few decades to 3. Right?
Yeah.
General Motors, General Electric, Ford, Chrysler.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There's meme coins too. There's literally coins being minted. I mean, Dogecoin is the only meme coin that kind of became legit. But the whole thing about cryptocurrency is, like I said about blockchain. Blockchain is open source. Anyone can use that technology. Yeah. You can today the three of us can start a cryptocurrency here with very minimal capital.
Doesn't mean we're going to make much money. Three of us can start a number of things.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Right. So it's
you need
the backing of the market.
You need the environment of people who are willing to speculate.
Yeah,
right. Who are willing who have expendable income.
Yeah,
right. That's why. I mean, stock markets and that kind of thing don't really happen in places like Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Because people don't have that kind of expendable income. And then you also need, even though the market itself is volatile, the context has to be stable.
Yeah.
It can't be too volatile. And the context in Ethiopia, not just for political reasons, but any number of reasons, is a little too volatile, right? Yeah. To build upon it an even more volatile market.
Yeah. Because, like, the WTO thing, they keep pushing it, but I think it's the last push that they have now. In a few years, I think.
There's a few requirements we have to fulfill to get into the WTO, which is a complete other headache. But again, like apart from the people that are going to speculate on you, you have to really analyze if it's profitable to start your own cryptocurrency, because the computing power you'd need to mint your own cryptocurrency, it would be much more profitable just to mine bitcoins. Because
throwing around a lot of words, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So mining is literally you're creating the currency. You're creating the coins in the digital space.
As if you're mining gold pieces from the earth, right?
Yeah. So.
Except it's not true. Except it's not true.
I mean, your servers.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole.
If you're doing it by yourself.
I get it. No, what I mean is on the physical part. You know how when you're mining, you need to physically go there and then pull out, I don't know, whatever ore you're at. Yeah. So in this way, what's actually mining isn't you but your computer.
Yeah.
So whatever device that you have is used to mine the specific coin.
Mm-hmm. So take a central processing unit. Those old desktop PCs you remember used to have a CPU. Take that the fastest one, the best one we got, then buy like 1,000 of those. Then you're just about to start mining like serious coins, right? So buy like 10,000 of those, then you're a mining company. So there's companies out there that whose entire existence is based around mining Bitcoin only. Then maybe they might diversify their portfolio and mine a couple of other lucrative coins as well. But again, so if you're going to invest that much money into it, and then you're going to start your own cryptocurrency, you better be backed by something serious, right? You better bring something unique to the market. So Ethereum has their own blockchain. Ethereum is another cryptocurrency.
When you say bring something, you mean something technical.
Something technical,
very
yeah.
technical.
So very something as far as like a certain number of servers or a certain
ease of use,
right?
Or something
Some
that
technical
Bitcoin
feature.
is not offering.
Yes and no.
Or
That's a yes and no. We both know. Again, Dogecoin. So he mentioned
Marketing,
Dogecoin. So the reason why Dogecoin went from being a meme coin, which is coins that exactly.
That's a joke.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
You know how memes work on like social media. The dog.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So, Doge was actually a dog meme that was being used. So it was just out there, and then Elon Musk, in the middle of one of his interviews, I think, he said, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely investing on
Dogecoin,
because that's where I'm going." And then
of course,
within a few weeks, it became a legit coin. And
he actually invested in it,
yeah.
which was a dirty
so like Jack
scheme.
Dorsey investing in his own. He's probably the billionaire buying his own image. No, because the reason I say this, we actually had, I think on our first episode, Gadus, who's a good friend of yours as well, was on here, filmmaker, and we were talking at length about billionaires and his distaste personally for Elon Musk. It's like Elon Musk is basically selling himself as this great genius. He has legions of followers going, he's this brilliant guy. And listen, he might very well be, but that's not everybody with a IQ of 180 or 200 ends up being the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
What does he really sell? What does he really make? And he was like, basically, but Elon Musk is basically selling you a bridge. Like, I got a bridge to sell you. It hasn't happened. He hasn't created. I mean, PayPal. Okay, some of the stuff that he's been involved in, but that's not what's made him his real fortune. His real fortune. Yeah. His unprecedented fortune.
Yeah.
But this dovetails with crypto, because the first reaction I had covering it when I was reading about this as a journalist, and this was really just right when I was taking off, 2013, when everybody started talking about Bitcoin and some of these other products, is currencies are backed by states.
Yeah.
They're backed by militaries.
Yeah.
They're the key way. I mean, monetary policy and the movement of money, the Federal Reserve and the control that the dollar has. That's the lifeblood of everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's backed by power. That's backed by force. That's backed by states, right? And in turn back so a couple like this sounds cool and everything, but crypto will never really take over. But that's the thing; it doesn't have to, right? As long as it has a speculative value for the next 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, here's the actual big spectrum of it. So, the reason why, we started with this with NFTs, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why NFTs are a thing now is because cryptocurrency was starting to fade out, right? In terms of being the hot topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Because no one was actually you remember when you said Bitcoin was the actual topic of conversation. And then at a certain point in time, a lot of millionaires started to emerge. So the yo-yo effect that Bitcoin has in the stock market, and ironically its value in general, never surpasses that, because in terms of why it's there to begin with, the reason it works is it's a decentralized system, meaning the person that oversees the monetary value of it is just another computer. So in the same way, the Federal Reserve is there, and then you put coins, and then the U.S. borrows money from itself, and then makes it out of thin air, and then the value of dollar keeps on changing,
and inflation consistently goes through the roof.
So that thing.
So people have less and less money in there, put their value in their money, which forces them to invest or to not lose a significant amount. So that keeps the economy going, and certain people who live off those investments, and B, simultaneously, and B, it creates a situation where people are constantly chasing that dollar, and chasing it for spending as well as saving. You know what I mean?
And what's worse is that the Federal Reserve is actually not government owned; it's
private
enterprise. It's a private enterprise. So. The reason why Bitcoin was working to begin with was that the idea of it was selling.
It's the opposite of the Federal Reserve.
It's the opposite.
The exact opposite.
Democratized money.
Right. I don't know about democratized because there's no representation either. It's just completely decentralized.
I mean, no. That decentralization is the democratization of the money, because it's people that are verifying these transactions, right? It's your peers. It's peer-to-peer verification.
So the main focus of this, the Ethiopian government actually, I think, has signed with a specific company to introduce
Cardano.
Cardano. So they've signed with this company to bring in blockchain systems throughout government education systems. Meaning, I think it's like the IDs of universities and high schools.
So the standardized testing procedures, the registration and everything, then the university IDs and everything is going to be set up on a blockchain system. So blockchain is fantastic. It's the building block of cryptocurrency. It's like the first step.
Sure.
So what it does is that imagine 15 computers that all 15 friends have. So it's me, you, Surafel, and then all the guests that you've had till today. So if we had a pool of money that we were creating, meaning not actual money, but money you buy with your money, like monopoly money.
Right.
So we have that monopoly money, and then we actually assign an actual value to it, right? Mm-hmm. But the only way it works is between 14 of us. And in order for 14 of us to exchange this thing, we don't have to do it physically. There's this ledger that we're all writing on. Yeah. And then all we're saying is A has given to B.
Right.
And then in order to check if A has given to B, this ledger is not just one ledger. It's 14 ledgers.
Right. Yeah. So this is a system. It's an intricate. I mean, they laid this out. I remember all of this from 9 years ago or 8 years ago. It's a system of accountability.
Yeah.
Not so much a system of decision making. That's why I challenge the idea of a democratization. Right. Because it's similar to. I mean, when I was in Senegal when I was young, it's intricate and it was just paper based. Right. It was pre-digital era. This is the 90s. Right. And it's also during the time of the devaluation. Speaking of currency, its power. All of West Africa had its wealth. Its currency devalued by the French, on whom the CFA, the West African currency, was still based on the franc, right before the French switched to the euro, right? Yeah. And this just devalued, and this was also immigration policy, because it stemmed the flow of West African immigrants to France, and also encouraged reverse migrants. So suddenly you had reverse migrants putting their stamp on the economy, on the landscape, franchising. But what was also going on was this intricate credit system.
Okay.
An intricate credit system where one and patronage ties and old school patronage ties that have to do with it. And so if one piece of that puzzle was removed, nothing is interchangeable, right? One piece of that puzzle is removed. You can't really replace that system. It kind of crumbles like a house of cards. And so there's a lot of social pressure to maintain that accountability. Okay. And there's, again, it goes back to laws, courts, right? Like, I mean, you cannot get away with disrupting that intricate credit system without consequences. But again, is there such a thing? Like, if somebody breaks that credit system or that system of accountability, do they face legal consequences?
It's the exact opposite, by the way. It's completely unaccountable. Right. So the reason why Jack Dorsey's 2.9 million purchase of his NFT worked is because it's not through a bank.
No, wait. Again, alleged.
I'm talking about his...
we're joking. We're joking.
We're talking about his NFT, the one he owned and sold.
Okay, not the fact that he bought it. Okay.
You're the one implying this. So, that specific NFT being sold at that price only worked because it's Bitcoin. So if I was buying something from using my actual account, the amount of verification I have to do, the amount of believe me, it's me. I promise. I swears that you have to do on both sides, and the amount that the bank usually takes from you for transferring this money. So all of that decision making does not exist when it's Bitcoin or like any of these cryptocurrencies, because what they do is there's so many blockchains and the system that if you kill off like 100 PCs, nothing can go wrong because it keeps cross-checking with anyone's live PC.
So if you're not,
it is interchangeable, is what you're saying. One block is removed, and it's coverable right away. See, again, this is based. Who's securing this from a technical standpoint?
So there's always everyone. That's the beauty of it, because these things keep feeding off of each other. Like,
do you guys really believe this is foolproof? Yeah. This can't be, because a lot of people felt that way about social media in the early years, and then you had this consolidation of social media among certain powers. Is there not a possibility that certain currencies, just like certain automobiles, just like certain social media networks, are going to emerge, and then suddenly it's going to be the inverse of democracy?
There's a possibility. The possibility, though, is that, like, you know how ID, like, what is it? When they steal your identity theft, exactly. That's the word. So how does that work? They figure out your social security, right? And the same way, the way that these
accidents can happen.
Yeah, cryptocurrencies work in the same way that when you have cryptocurrency money, you need a crypto wallet.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that wallet is the only basis that you have. So usually it's like if your phone has biometrics, it uses biometrics to get into your phone. Like, you have to use biometrics to access your money.
Yeah. Right.
If you lose it, it's still cool because you can recover it from another device. But in order to do that, there's a 14-word phrase that they give you as soon as you make this. Yeah. And then you have to be able to memorize it, either write it somewhere or save it.
What if you forget it, like that famous guy who forgot his password? Yeah. He lost all his money.
Yes. Yeah. You you are
right because if you write it down in order not to forget it, regardless, even the person who gives it to you there's always a way that they can sell it to somebody else.
They're not the one giving it to you. So it's like random. So the app itself just randomly generates it and then forgets it. But the thing is, you have to write it. They tell you this thing like 15 times before you start. They even test you on it to see if you actually wrote it down.
So every wallet has a differing level of security, right? So there's secure wallets, there's very secure wallets, there's premium wallets, and then there's like very unsecured cheap wallets.
Let me guess, people are not speculating on the security aspect of it.
On the security aspect
on the wallets, on the
not as
much
as the security aspect of cryptocurrencies themselves.
Exactly.
So the wallets, like especially beginner investors, should really dig into how secure your wallet is. Yeah. So the more secure your wallet is, the higher the transaction fees are going to be. Every time you buy or sell these coins, you're going to have some high fees. But if you're chasing the lower fees, the higher the chance that you're going to get hacked, you're going to lose a lot of money, depending on how much. Hacked. I've been hacked.
Seriously?
Before. Yeah. These low gas fee wallets. Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, there's always the possibility of hacking. And all I'm saying is any of this reliably backed by a more tangible system, like an old-fashioned system of accountability, legal recourse?
Exchange sites like Binance, there's a wallet called blockchain.com. These entities have actual offices, right? These wallets have actual offices, actual people you can hold accountable.
Like a company.
Yeah, they are companies. Yeah. The wallets are companies.
Right.
The Bitcoin itself is not a company. Right. Everything else is a company. Ethereum is a company. Litecoin is a company.
Just like gold is not a company. But the metal itself is not a company. Right? But the mining of it and the turning of it into
But Bitcoin by itself is a cryptocurrency without a central office, without a central person behind it. Right. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency with an office.
I'm saying the Bitcoin and those that have no office, that have no tangible, are basically like elements.
Yeah,
they're basically like a metal. Mm-hmm. This is how I understood it when it came out as well. It's like this is like, and you can mine it and you can turn it into this. So it's not unlike the gold rush.
Yeah.
In the 1800s, right out in California, like there's a bunch of gold out there. Let's go mine it. Let's go. This is just happening. It's a gold rush happening on the
internet. This does run out too. There's a specific amount of bitcoins that have been minted. So it's not like forever and ever, like you can keep mining and so on. So the way that you actually do make some of the money from Bitcoin is being part of that, that the ledger that we were talking about. I think some of the actual mining that you do is also from people's transactions.
Yeah.
Because when you're selling, you're giving some amount of Bitcoin to Surafel, and then in the middle there's transactions, right? There's always some transaction costs, but they're so small it doesn't matter.
Right.
So those go to either the system or the miners, the specific miners that are verifying this account, because it's not one PC that's like, oh yeah, that's definitely him. It's all of them at once at the same time. So what you're leaving it up to is not actually a person, but more a computer.
Right.
So when he mines our transaction, so he's verifying that you have transferred funds to me.
Right.
But after he verifies that transaction, someone else cross-checks that. Sure. Someone across the globe that he's never talked to and probably never will cross-checks that, and his transaction is cross-checked by someone
else.
And
that's the fail-safe, right?
Yeah.
It's a web of intricacies because everybody's protected from everybody's identity is protected from everybody else.
There's anonymity.
I think the security aspect makes it. Let's pull back for a second,
sure.
Right? Because the other market that they were having me look at when they were like, oh, you're from Ethiopia, we have family members who are doing MSP and value-added resellers and stuff like that in Africa, and they were like, that should be your beat, like Bitcoin and all that. But the other thing they wanted me to cover more and more as journalists was emerging markets, right? The term emerging markets, because they all saw, everybody saw already by then that China had been 30 years since China was considered a backward country and had not liberalized its market. So, and India was on the up. Brazil was on the up.
Yeah.
This potential that exists in a place like Africa. So, how many other? I mean, I'm not asking you to give me an exact number, right?
Yeah.
But like, what's the level of interest and influence, and how widespread is this within Addis Ababa now? Of people really invested in
Crypto.
in crypto and in digital art and in this whole world with people who are following the technical aspects and actually investing.
Well, depends on how you want that answered, because depending on the specific circle you're talking about, it's either really hot or
Nobody.
Right.
So the specific circles we're talking about is like, you know, the people that usually go to like creative events, maybe.
Right.
So
They're into NFTs.
Yeah, they're into NFTs. So
I mean, into it as in they've done the research phase at least.
Very few.
We know people who are selling. What are you talking about?
I mean, like percentage-wise, the people that I know that own NFTs or sell NFTs are
4 people.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
Maybe.
Very
Does it
few
get to
people
Very
of
few.
older.
Yeah.
Older. No,
Older.
not even
Older.
older. No.
Like middle and older. I mean, these are young people. is what
I
I'm
know
saying.
one person older than me that owns cryptocurrency.
And you're in your
One.
20s.
Yeah.
Right. So these are young people in their
Yeah.
20s who are really
Yeah.
into the cutting edge.
Yeah.
English speakers almost always.
Yeah,
People with
crypto
access
Crypto's a
consistently
bit
technology, education.
Crypto's a lot bigger than NFTs. So
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, like it's not necessarily these the demographic you just defined. So there's the last time I bought crypto, it was from the kid was 18, I think,
Yeah.
in government school.
So yeah, the person that keeps sending me the mine links that I forward to you, he's 38.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of crypto, it's still
It's a bit
niche. It's
wider.
very niche, but the age demographic is a bit big. It's the people who are into tech, who, you know, they own laptops and do graphic design work, or are into programming, or like that specific.
Spend a lot of time on the internet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
specific niche. But when you come to NFTs, people are talking about it a lot. People are starting to get into it, like specifically like sketch artists,
Yeah.
people who usually were doing digital art. Because there was a digital art exhibition like, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And the people that were showcasing their work there were not exactly making any money, because
Right.
they were doing digital art, they were showcasing this. There was one exhibition where they showcased their work.
It was digital art in print.
Are you talking about Fendika?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was something in Fendika, the photography thing with the digital art combination. you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, I
Yeah,
heard about that.
there's certain exhibits where they're doing that kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, it was honestly, I don't know if that was their goal, but it was sad to see. I mean,
Yeah,
the
digital
Fendika
art
one,
in
it was photography with digital elements added to it,
right.
and
Which looked great.
maybe it makes sense to print that, but the idea of printing digital art and showcasing it and calling it digital art is
It's no longer digital once you're printing it.
yeah. I mean, it was made using digital
But
software.
that's the thing, though, because how many
Okay.
people even understood that? Because even
Right.
for the
It's
people...
misunderstanding. That's
No,
Yeah.
not just misunderstanding, because the sad part about that whole thing was
Yeah.
that it had to be printed
Yeah.
from
For
a marketing
people to-
standpoint,
yeah.
because no one else would have understood what was going on. Because if it was just digital art and you just had one screen there and just a slideshow, and people would have been like, "Oh, we just saw an animation and then came back."
Which brings me to a little detour I want to take, because the metaverse.
That one that dipped 230 billion last.
230 billion. Okay, Facebook's metaverse dipped 230 billion.
Yeah.
Facebook's Meta, the parent company, dipped, not
Yeah.
the metaverse one.
Oh,
Yeah.
Facebook dipped.
Facebook dipped. So
Okay.
Facebook's parent company, which they decided to call Meta,
Right.
dipped
Which is themselves.
billions. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have this concept of a metaverse.
Right, because they own other things besides themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, they wanted to make the internet a 3D immersive experience rather than a flat 2D thing you scroll on your desktop.
And clearly with that move, when they established metaverse, they were saying we're going even further.
Yeah.
We're not just
Yeah.
controlling social media.
yeah, we're gonna go further, but Facebook's metaverse wasn't really active, right?
Yeah.
Decentraland, on the other hand, and a couple of other meta universes. These places you can go and create an avatar, and there's real estate in these landscapes, so to say, which is selling for actual money.
No.
Right. And that's the type of platform I'd expect digital art to be showcased in. Concerts have been held in these metaverses, and sold out concerts. I'll mention, where the artist is at home, lounging on a chair, singing.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not even singing.
I like how you just put that in a very mean way, like disappointed.
Some of it is generally disappointing because as much as I'd love to see the Rolling Stones, and I'd pay an arm, a foot, and a kidney probably to see the Rolling Stones in concert, it would piss me off if they're all in their bedrooms just playing the next track.
I think I get what you're saying. So in other words, on the one hand, we have people misunderstanding or misapplying the technology or the concept of digital art. Yeah. And then on the other hand, you have people who are applying it so straightforwardly that you lose the whole, like the value that you had before it became digitalized. And this is exactly the initial critique, the initial thought that I had when crypto came out, which is, I can't say whether or not people are going to speculate on this.
Yeah.
I mean, people have made gajillions of dollars on stuff that had no real value, right? That the stock itself never matched the value of the stock, right? But to most people right away, it was like you are no longer in touch with the tangible thing that crypto is now taking in that meta direction, right? And this is also an issue with Facebook.
So actually, I'm going to argue with every point that you just raised.
Okay, go ahead.
So, in terms of the stock market,
these are generational differences.
Yeah. Good. So, like the stock market, for example, Netflix does not make money. Their structure fails to make money because they keep spending more than they have. They have no actual source of income because that $11 for a year contract thing is not making them any money at all, because you can use one account for 4 people, and then that specific system.
You're saying Netflix isn't making profits?
Yeah.
Yes.
But that
they're making money.
Yeah, Netflix has stock.
Again, wait. They're not making money. They're making profit. So so they're not actually generating money as income as a company. Meaning, if that company was in Ethiopia, it would have failed a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But because it is in the U.S. and because the stock market exists, their shares is 11 billion or something. It is so high. But that's because
stock markets aren't tied to profits. Stock markets are tied to stock.
They're tied to
the
value.
Actual physical, the capital.
The value. So the value that they have from the stocks is how the company makes money. Does that make sense? Because they grew their brand, and then the brand is what's making them money. So now
that's what capital.
So it's precisely why Facebook lost the billions of dollars they lost is for the first time since its inception. 2018, since its inception, for the first time, the amount of users using Facebook dipped. For the first time since its inception, and another thing stock relies on is faith. Yeah. The market needs faith.
Well, So faith that the stock is going to increase.
Faith that
not just thinking that the value of the stock is going to increase, but the stock itself, the capital.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you don't have to make any profit as long as your capital keeps increasing.
Yeah.
That is where you're trying to, because that's also where the dividends come from.
That's what I mean.
Right. So again, so we understand each other.
Exactly. Yeah. What I'm saying is Bitcoin is as ridiculous as the stock market, because in terms of how
what's the stock in Bitcoin?
No. What I mean is, in terms
absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Faith.
It's the different computers that are
speculation.
Working. Exactly.
Right? So it's pure speculation. The other companies now, this is a gradual thing, just like the Elon Musk thing.
Yeah.
Before that, you had everybody was marveling for many years that Walmart was the biggest company in the world.
Yeah.
When Walmart doesn't produce anything.
Yeah.
Right. There's just a bunch of stores. Mm-hmm. Now the guy who's the richest guy in the world is. I mean, how did Carlos Slim become a poor country's telecommunications guy become the richest man in the world? It was increasingly more and more based on nothing.
Yeah.
More and more based on faith or speculation or whatever. Cryptocurrencies, so it's not a sudden thing that cryptocurrencies are entirely based on speculation. That's always been an aspect that you guys said.
Yeah.
But there's always, Netflix has stock. Yeah. Not just the value of the stock, not just the price of the stock, which is based on speculation and faith, but actual capital.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no capital in cryptocurrency. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's no real capital.
There is.
Which is what?
The money you use to buy the crypto.
So are we not looping back on ourselves here?
No, that's what I mean. It ironically relies on the same way that Netflix does. It relies on the stock. The value of Bitcoin is managed through the same stock as Netflix is. So Netflix, that makes literally no money, runs at a loss as an actual physical company, is valued in a stock market, right? So its shares go up and down depending on what the next movie they're bringing is. Now they have new movies every week with Marvel or like with famous actors. They brought that in, right? So their stock market goes up, so their value goes up. Same way, Bitcoin. Depending on whatever news that just came out about Bitcoin, it goes up and down. NFTs came, right? So the reason why NFTs work only with Bitcoin and these cryptocurrencies is because, the one thing. So I'm gonna start with the stage thingy. The metaverse.
Yeah.
So the reason why that is now an acceptable form of entertainment, of watching a concert, is because of COVID. People were staying home, and then they were watching a bunch of...
Suddenly you can watch the Rolling Stones in their pajamas, and it's not
exactly
nearly as offensive as it used to be.
You're not watching them in their pajamas. It's going to be digital avatars playing the guitar.
Major Lazer did that.
So you're not even watching them.
So Major Lazer did that. In what was the game? Fortnite. Yeah, they did that in Fortnite.
Ariana Grande had a concert.
So that's where it started. They tested it during COVID because if they tested it in a game that a certain amount of people were playing, and then it worked. And then when you come to the metaverse, when you have actual avatars that are in it, people are still now more invested into it.
Yeah.
So it's less of an idea and more a reality.
Yeah.
Look at TikTok. Facebook's actual competitor now is TikTok.
Yeah.
And TikTok was first, something that you thought 15-year-olds watch when they want to do new dance moves. But now brands are getting into it.
Right.
It's like even here, old people have it on their phones. I know someone in the office who uses TikTok from his mom's phone.
What do you mean even here? Ethiopia, TikTok is bigger in Addis Ababa than it is anywhere else I've ever seen.
From the older demographic is what he.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
Someone is his mom's phone.
Right.
Yeah.
50-something-year-old woman.
Sure, older people are on TikTok. They're on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of those things appeal to older people even more because they have more disconnection.
So there's two platforms they check, right?
Yeah.
It's
Telegram.
YouTube.
Telegram too.
YouTube.
And
Yeah.
Facebook.
Facebook.
Telegram. A lot of older people on Facebook, especially the politics.
Exactly. Instagram. Right.
Not so much Twitter either. Twitter never really got a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instagram too, because Instagram's
entirely photo-based platform. They're not
TikTok
big selfie takers.
It's even worse, right? TikTok is video-based.
I mean, but that's the thing. The content you're gonna get on TikTok is what amazed me about TikTok. That algorithm is insane. So no two people's feeds are gonna be similar, right? The three of us might have similar interests, but what you're gonna watch on TikTok, all three of our feeds are gonna be starkly different. Maybe one video every 100 swipes is gonna be the same, right? So it's very very personalized content, and the amount of content that's being uploaded to this website is insane. And that's the thing. That's what makes TikTok appealing to the older demographic. There's content for them, and they can watch it, and it's designed for short attention spans.
Right.
So it's like a minute video. So the videos are
everything is designed for increasingly short attention span.
Yeah.
There's somebody who wrote a book. He was on Bill Maher last week, but I had heard about him for some time about stolen focus. It's called Stolen Focus. It's a British guy who's writing that the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems that is affecting humanity now is the steep decline in attention span. He was like, everything that you have to do in this world, everything that you do requires some kind of attention, ability to focus, ability to attention. And people think, people attribute it to technology right away. Oh, it's technology. He's like, yes, certain forms of technology are specifically designed to steal your focus. But then he attributes it to a whole bunch of other aspects that kind of randomly align that aren't designed that way, like food and diet and that kind of thing.
Actually, I'll throw in advertising in there.
Advertising, absolutely. And even the structure. I mean,
throw us under the bus.
Well, because like my generation was the first to have mass ADD, mass attention deficit, which was expressed as kids being like brats. But really they were hyperactive and they were also talking about the structure of not just advertising but of television shows, like how Sesame Street had to change their structure because. Those shorter and shorter sketches and kid shows are very much you have to kind of help the kids a la Mr. Rogers, right? Help the kids kind of focus in on we're straying from cryptocurrency now.
No. I'm gonna throw in something I always mention when someone says Sesame Street. So on Tipping Point, there was they talked about how Sesame Street actually used to work. So Sesame Street, we think is like what, a Muppet show, right? It's like characters and Muppets, and it's like
fantastic educational show.
Yeah, educational.
And also
show,
a weird thing about like kind of crackheads and like the guys in the trash can, the giant bird. There's always a kind of a weird druggy aspect to a lot of children.
He hallucinates. And sees. So they're actually very curated. By very curated, I mean. This was the 70s, right?
Yeah.
In the 70s, they actually used to have focus groups on every episode they have.
Yeah.
So the focus groups were a bunch of kids, tiny kids at different ages, that specific demographic. They set them in a room and play that episode for them.
Right. I think I know where this is going. They like the episode.
No, not just like.
How do they react?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a camera that's panned at the children. So it looks at their eye movements. So they used to do tests. So, for example, if Elmo is on the right of the screen, and then he's trying to pronounce garbage. You remember that thing? Yeah. So if he's on the left, then they wouldn't know how to say garbage. But if he's in the middle, and he did the 2-letter thing where they meet up in the middle, and he said garbage, they know the word because it's in front of them. So they were doing this very scientifically.
Yeah, very scientifically. But what I was going to say is the kids like it when content that they already meets their preference. Their preference, of course, as kids, is that which does not test their attention span.
Yeah.
So you're letting the kids dictate this because they're the consumer.
Yeah.
But what you're really doing is shortening their attention span more and more and more, right? In order and so it actually feeds the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing when you're raising the kid, which is help them develop their attention span.
I think we're gonna get into
their childhood.
Very philosophical conversation, because the thing is, would you rather keep the little attention that you can get and try to convey a good message that you can, or stick to the old routine and lose the viewers that you already had?
Let's talk about that though, because these shows actually worked. You want to know how
back in the day they did?
No, they still do. You want to know why? Because like my sister was actually watching like animated series.
Yeah.
So this practice actually continued, by the way, to this day. So when you're normally watching any random movie, we get bored easily, right?
Yeah.
Try to watch a kids show. At a certain point in time, my sister found herself getting upset at the kids for making noise while she was watching their cartoon.
Right.
Because they're used to that amount of color. So, like, starting from colors too. The content, the colors, the storyline, everything's designed so that the kids will never look away.
Yeah.
But they're used to it.
So you're feeding their desire as if that's giving them agency. But kids are doing this subconsciously. They're children, right? Yeah. They don't know any better, right? So this can be seen as so. For instance, I remember. I have a master's in modern thought and literature, right, which is based on Frankfurt School critical theory, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I made this point in class once, and people were like, "Oh, this is important, right?" Because you guys know about Michel Foucault.
Yeah.
So Michel Foucault is a very famous, very important social theorist, probably the most important in the last 50 years, right? French guy. His early work is a critique of liberalism. I'll try and break this down real quickly, right? But this is kind of a gross overview. But Foucault basically says, okay, look, he starts a book called Discipline and Punish. His other famous book early on, before he kind of went nuts, was called Madness and Civilization. One is about the prison system, and the other is about the mental health system. And he's critiquing the liberal concept of rehabilitation, which is supposed to be very benign, right? We're going to rehabilitate you. But he starts off the book, Discipline and Punish, describing the regicide of describing a guy who was executed for attempted regicide of some Belgian king or whatever, and how in medieval times they used to draw and quarter you.
Yeah.
And then he goes, now the apparatus of control, of coercion, is no longer on the body, it's in the mind. And really rehabilitation is mind control. And one of the things he offers is this idea of the panopticon, which a lot of people refer to. And the panopticon is the design of prisons and the design of a lot of these institutions is such that you can be seen from opticon. You can be seen from everywhere. Yeah. You're being observed and your movements are being observed. Your preferences are being observed, such as to dictate to you, such as a form of control. It seems benign, right? Yeah. It seems we're watching you, we're taking care of you, we're rehabilitating you, but actually these are all forms of mind control. Yeah. And this is a much more insidious form of control, partly because it's very hard to detect. Yeah. You don't know that this is happening to you. People in general think, oh, well, I live in a liberal society. Whereas when you're being drawn and quartered, everybody can tell just how brutal it is. That's the whole point, right? Okay. So we're in class and we're watching this video of this kid. He's a young kid who it's an example of like sort of focus group kind of studies. And we were talking about it in the context of mass modern ideas. We weren't talking about it in the context of Foucault. These people go into this kid's room. And they're talking to him. They're like a focus group kid. They're asking him all these questions about his viewing habits. Yeah. What does he like watching, and this is that, and they're based on that they're deciding what to advertise to him. It's basically the conversation we're having about focus groups and how they individualize one kid and they look at. And I'm like, do people realize how insidious this is? How scary this is? Because when you're a child, a television coming into a room has the same power as the benign veiling of rehabilitation. Oh, I have control. Yeah. Oh, I'm looking out into the world. Yeah. Oh, I'm empowered. Yeah. But really, there are people on the other side of that window out into the world, and they're the ones watching you. And they're watching you. Their business model is not just to watch you in order to dictate your behavior, but to do so in order to make money off of you. Yeah. That's what they exist of. Yeah. Right. So, and you have no way of defending yourself when you're a kid. You don't know this. You don't know what this does to your attention span. You don't understand. I mean, you understand it on a superficial level, like all of us do, but you don't understand how you're being controlled while being presented with the benign concept that you are the one who has control over the television and all that. So do you understand why I'm bringing this up? I do.
But the one thing I was about to say was that when it's adults, I feel like the problem's a bit bigger. Because when we're talking about kids, I know they have no control over it, but their mind does expand faster. Yeah. So the reason why my sister was glued to that TV while they were just running around not caring was because of me getting used to it. Because now, the reason I threw in advertising earlier was because how we talk about advertising is when you're walking across the street, do you notice a new billboard? Or like on the buildings, they have stacks and stacks of every floor has a printing place or a copy place or a boutique, but you've been passing it for 10 years and you don't even know it exists, right? So someone random comes to your, like when someone's trying to come to your house, they ask you where it is and they just keep mentioning random things. Yeah. And you're like, I have no idea where this place is. And they're like, but this is where you live. How do you not know this, right? Because all this time, you've left it out of your peripheral. We did that because we grew up around billboards, all these hectic things that you see around you physically. Yeah. And you've learned to drown it out. Right. So in order to get your attention, they need to make good ads. They need to make good action movies. There's a reason why action movies gross more than many other movies, right? Because the amount of things they throw in your face keeps getting your attention. The plot twists, the new thing, the explosion. In the same way, when you talk about kids, they grow out of Sesame Street. Because if you try to show Sesame Street to a kid right now, they wouldn't last that long. It's because the attention span that they have grows as they see things. So once they see this show for 5 times, they don't want to watch the 6th.
But it's not because their attention span expands. It's because their attention span is contracting. It's because their attention span is so short. I mean, first of all, nobody likes to watch the same thing 5 times. It's not about attention, right? No, you get the talk about series. Okay. I see. I misunderstood. No, but exactly. You're okay. So we're on the same page. Yeah. You lose your attention over time, and the more things are curried towards your preference, subconscious preference. Yeah. This is not people sitting around making a choice and having agency. This is the opposite of that. This is somebody's brain development being affected. I don't mean to sound dramatic when I say this, but to me this is kind of scary, right? Because then they also have to medicate you on another thing that makes profit, which is ADD medication, ADHD medication. Which I knew a lot of kids growing up who were on that stuff because they grew up in a situation where everything was tailored to their short attention span.
Yeah.
Right? And pulling advertising, they have no defenses for it. And as a result, it creates an incentive, a profit-based incentive for that attention span to keep declining, to keep contracting. And now suddenly we have a lot of people, myself included, who have trouble focusing. Yeah. I can focus on certain things, and then other things I just have significant trouble focusing. And I think a lot of people on our journey, this is what the book that I mentioned earlier, and this kind of, this guy's arguing, we want to take back our attention kind of movement, right? And of course, not all of this is intentional. I'm not saying this is all conspiracy, right? Because he's also like, some of this is these technologies. That's what he's referring to by these technologies that are intentionally robbing people of their attention. And then some of it is food, diet, right? Some of it is new economies, right? Where more and more people are, sitting back in their living room with Corona and that kind of thing, where everything is kind of tailored towards you. It's a little bit, you guys saw the film WALL-E. It was like 10 years ago. It's a little bit like the people on the hovercrafts. Really fat people were just kind of hovering or just lying there and consuming. Yeah. And everything is tailored to you, but is that really any way to live, right?
Yeah, because the last time I took a break and stayed at home for the longest period of time was probably when I had COVID a couple of months ago. Yeah, and that was a real shock for me because for like 3 or 4 years, I have not had time to do to really sit back like this. Yeah. So the first day I kind of realized what my watching pattern is, what my entertainment pattern is, because I'd get bits and pieces of entertainment throughout the day. I don't really have time to watch a 3-hour movie. Like the last time I did that, I had to physically go to the cinema, sit down and watch a movie. Otherwise, at home, I haven't seen a movie in one sitting in a while.
Because of your shortened attention span?
Because of my schedule most of the time.
Because there's another thing that's interesting. Sorry, real quick. Yeah. There's another thing that's interesting that people have commented on that everything is either like 5 seconds, like a viral video or TikTok, or it's like 10 hours, like podcasts. People have attention for podcasts like this. They go on for hours. Or people have stopped viewing films. They've stopped viewing 22-minute sitcoms. I can't sit through that stuff. But for some reason, I can binge. Like, you put yourself in the mentality of the binge, which is a recent thing. The golden era television thing, where you're sitting and watching for days upon days. That's perfect for a situation like coronavirus, where you're shut in for it. You just immerse yourself in the world of that show.
That's what I realized during the first day was the morning was consumed by YouTube Shorts, a couple of random YouTube videos, then I'd skip to Instagram, skip to Facebook, Reddit, then back to YouTube, and it was all over the place. Then in the afternoon, I just binged one show, and I finished the entire season. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted. I was actually exhausted.
And you were just sitting in bed.
Yeah, I was sitting in bed. I didn't move from my bedroom.
You also had coronavirus. That might have had to do with you.
No.
The fatigue is one of your
believe me, that was not it. That was not why.
The first week, I had no symptoms. I was going into the office.
Fair enough. Okay.
I was isolating in our.
But also they everybody says that fatigue sometimes when you're lying around doing nothing. Just makes you even more tired. Right?
I get you.
Like you want a jolt of energy, you get up and you kind of. But I get what you're saying. But the entertainment complex also makes this worse.
This rapidly going from one topic to another topic. It's this internet Tarzan just going from one webpage to another webpage.
That's what we're doing in this podcast, by the way.
Yeah,
so that's what
we're skipping right topics.
Yeah, we're jumping from one thing.
We started from one thing to crypto. Yeah.
But this is kind of
how we work.
All related, and this is how we think now.
Yeah. What I'm talking about is adaptation, by the way. Because you were talking about like how this is not right, but what I'm talking about is I'm pretty sure we have to find ways to adapt to this because this is going to get worse as we go on. Because we know, like, canceling all TV in your house may not be the right way. It also might. But
Why do you think I don't have a television in my house?
No, I don't have one either.
I would become addicted.
You have a laptop.
No, I don't. I have a laptop, but I don't use it for anything other than work.
You have
okay.
I have a phone, and even that, I was dragged in for large periods of time. I get a dumb phone.
Yeah.
Because I get so easily absorbed into technology.
Yeah, but look at this. I mean,
I'm all social media.
Yeah. You see what I mean? But you're still avoiding it, right? Yeah. Because I don't have a TV in my house for the same reason, which is. I know if I have a TV, I'm going to be a potato.
We can't control ourselves anymore. We have, like, no agency.
But that's the thing.
I don't have a TV, but it's for completely different reasons.
What?
The only reason I'd use a TV is for gaming. I'd watch movies on my laptop.
Gaming in these days, everybody used to talk about how terrible gaming was for kids. Blah, blah. Gaming is one of the best things that's left because at least it's interactive. It encourages teamwork. The fact that boys are doing, the fact that boys are involved in video games. This is why in a lot of the studies, sadly in the industrialized world, it's really girl suicides that are up, and really? Boys are not feeling the same mental health crisis to the same extent. A lot of that has to do with a lot of the gaming and a lot of this. Right, it creates communities, it creates teamwork, and it's interactive. You have to do something. Yeah. You're not sitting back and passively absorbing, passively consuming.
That is correct, I mean, like, gaming's absolutely fantastic, especially for these isolated times, if you have these long periods of being alone, even if it's not online gaming, even if it's not interactive with people outside your house.
It helps with focus, I think. I read somewhere.
It does focus,
So usually because when you play games, it's very straightforward. It's a specific mission. You need to complete these specific challenges, get to this point in time, and then you win.
And you mess up, you lose your attention, you lose your focus, and you get shot dead in that. That's how you lose almost always. Oh man, I forgot. Or
someone calls you and your attention's taken, and
but again, boom, you're dead. It also works in the same way because games were also modified in the same way. For example, if you go on YouTube, there's actual just game soundtracks that are just designed for you to study with.
Yeah.
Because game audio is actually also designed in a way that it makes you focus.
Right. It became a genre of music, right?
Exactly.
Video game music.
So, in the same way, what I'm trying to say is like adaptation. We have to find a coping mechanism rather than an aversion.
Yeah.
Because you can never avoid it the rest of your life. I mean, you're never not going to look at a TV ever again, right? Yeah. So whenever you do, you're going to get consumed again.
But you know what's dangerous to me is when I go into somebody's house and I see a television, I'm overwhelmed not overwhelmed, but I feel this real sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Yes, the TV.
The conversation piece.
Because it's also but it's also an evolutionary thing where we always stared into a fire.
Yeah.
As growing up, as human beings evolving, we were used to staring into a fire and being mesmerized by the dance of the fire. That's what the television is, and so it brings us back to that sense of everything is tied together. But that's so comforting. That has such a lulling effect that it becomes an aphrodisiac, right?
Exactly.
So it's almost like all throughout life. Now in the modern world, we're surrounded by all these aphrodisiacs, all these opiates, right? Instead of it being religion or whatever it was in the 19th century, now it's like this kind of technology, that kind of distraction, this kind of. But
so I'm gonna bring it back to you to the media actually. So digital world in general. So when we talk about how to adapt and cope with these mechanisms, being aware by itself is something. Because if you like when you join rehab, first step of rehab is admitting you have a problem. Yeah. So in the same way, if you know you're abusing television or social media or whatever, knowing that you're doing that kind of helps you focus back. You might take steps. You might add other apps that make you stop. Yeah. There's this infinite scroll stopping thing too. I think Instagram introduced it once and then just went away with it because they actually had a problem with people being too focused on Instagram and then with the infinite scroll that they have that it doesn't stop, right? So people would go on it for hours and they wouldn't notice. So they actually started putting a stop to it. It didn't work. People wanted it back. So noticing these things actually helps you because when we were talking about like programmatic ads, for example. So programmatic ads are ads that are tailored to you specifically. So when you're browsing online, if you're not doing it in like incognito, or something.
Or sometimes even in incognito.
This is based on algorithms.
So what it does is since you're already logged in, it doesn't know your name per se, but it knows your IP. So it knows the computer that's doing all this browsing. So that specific computer, let's say, goes to Amazon, checks out a shoe. Or not, just Google's fancy blue shoe. And then goes to Facebook. And then browses on Facebook. And then the ad that comes on Facebook is a fancy blue shoe at Amazon. So this programmatic ads usually target you in a specific way so that they know how you act and who you are. So if you give them, these are called data points, so the amount of data it has on specific IP, I mean. Yeah. So if it has like 3, it can know you till like someone that knows you from somewhere. If it's like, I think 10 or 30, it knows you as a friend. If it's over 100, it's a best friend. 300, it's a family. I know 300 is more than your wife, I think. There was a whole algorithm where it knows you more than your friend, your best friend, your wife, your family, and then yourself. So those amount of data points, I mean, it's much bigger when you go to the Western countries. Not as much here, but even here there are companies that have over 100 data points on people that use mobile phones. Right. Yeah. So what that does is it can predict how you act. So knows you more than your family. In their case, what they're trying to mean is they know how you were acting like a child. Like when you were a child, sorry. So they knew your behavior patterns as a child, as a grown man, when you were divorced, when you were happy. So they know you completely. So they know how you're about to act too. Unless, of course, you had some type of epiphany and you've changed your way of living.
Which it's going to take a couple of months to adjust to. Yeah. But they'll know that too.
So what you can do is specifically, like, for example, Surafel doesn't usually use web browsers in normal mode. He always goes incognito. Me, I'm the exact opposite. I've gotten used to the fact that someone's obviously tracking me and obviously sending me different things. I abuse the system. Right. Hiding inside the chaos. Yeah. So how it works is if you already know that you're being tracked, because usually when you're Googling something, usually ads come on the above. Right? Yeah. Before they used to have different colors, now they're the same, but you can actually, if you know what's going on, then you know what's being sent towards you. Yeah. So when you're scrolling and then some sponsored content comes up, usually people don't notice that they're being manipulated, like you said earlier, in the same way that kids don't know that someone behind the TV is actually making money off of them looking at Sesame Street. Yeah. In the same way, when you're going through Facebook, you don't know that the sponsored ad that you actually wanted to, the sponsored event that you actually wanted to go to, was actually curated and manipulated to come to you from some agency making money and the event organizers that were targeting you. Well, yes, us. So these systems, once you know them, you can easily adapt. So for me, it's not about avoiding it.
Easily.
Very easily.
Because it's interesting you said, because I what I was thinking was in a different context, right? Yeah. When I became interested in Edward Snowden and before that, Glenn Greenwald's other work on his revelations back when he was on Salon about the person who's now Chelsea Manning, was originally Bradley Manning, right? This was one of the first causes that I was very much interested in, and that I actually the first time and only time that I've donated significant money was for Bradley Manning's defense fund. Right? Yeah. There are a lot of things about that story that still really bother me. Okay. But then Edward Snowden learned from that experience, and Edward Snowden, the discussions that he's established, that he's created, that he's led are making us realize like the extent of the dangers of privacy, of taking away people's privacy, the political aspects of it, so the inability for human beings to resist as long as there's all the the whole background. Yeah. So that is part of what informed my decision, and sometimes still does, to change my behavior and sometimes just do away with the smartphone. I'm very resistant to smartphones as a result. And then when it comes to, I mean, you guys know the documentary The Social Dilemma. Yeah. Right. You guys saw. I didn't see it. I saw the Rogan interview, the 3-hour, which was more in depth. I think. I mean, he goes into it because it's not a documentary. Right?
I wouldn't be able to compare it, but I think so.
Yeah. I mean, you get the argument, right? Yeah. I mean, and we all kind of knew everything that he lays out. We knew that, but he kind of puts it all together and builds a case for it. And since then, I kind of can't be on social media. So I know what you mean. Like, well, there are ways to adapt, but for me, and for a lot of people who just have trouble resisting these kinds of things that just completely are so immersive, that they allow you to completely distract yourself. It's a vicious cycle, right? Because when the mind is constantly distracted and unable to take attention, that's when you want to immerse yourself in something like that grabs your attention. But then that destroys your attention even further. Right?
My point
it's
is
like the kid in the Sesame Street.
But realistically, you kind of live among people, though. I mean, unless, of course, you are fully introvert, all out, and then you want to be alone, then... Yeah, what you're saying makes sense. You know, like the guy that lives in the woods making his own...
Or in case there's coronavirus. or in case you're working from home. Or in case like you're someone like me and there's some language barrier, cultural barrier being in Ethiopia.
Really.
Or, I mean, there's a lot of people who have reasons besides being antisocial for being isolated. Some people it's because they're overworked and they have nothing better to do.
So what grew during COVID? I think it was Ubisoft or Steam. I think. Steam's stock shot up during COVID.
What was Steam?
Steam is the gaming platform.
Discord,
Steam. Yeah.
All
so
of them,
what happened is because during COVID, because COVID was going on, people were working from home, but they were also gaming from home because they got bored from work. So when they were working, when they were gaming, they weren't just using these offline games. They were actually doing the interactive ones like Fortnite and so on.
Yeah.
So
every game has an online platform.
Yeah, so the online platform in which they had a community and they were getting together. Even different people were actually even coming together and then playing on these games, and then the stocks went through the roof.
Yeah.
So even during different times, we find a way to, socialize. You said it before. There's a reason we used to gather around fires, right? So in the same way,
when you say socialize, you mean socialize with people through technology.
Yeah.
Socially, exactly.
A lot of the video game thing. But okay, but see, this brings right.
Or social media or some other method. Yeah.
This is interesting, right?
So,
this brings in what the next question is.
Exactly.
Are these genuinely social forms of behavior, or is this the illusion that makes it that leads to us being even more antisocial, more isolated as people?
Like most,
because we forget that there is such a thing as direct.
I understand. Like most of the things that we value as people.
Yeah.
These things are given value by the people around us, right? I mean, there's a reason why tucking in your shirt symbolizes more professionalism than like
untucked shirts.
Untucked shirts. It makes no difference, realistically. Like, think about it. Actually, think about it. It makes no difference.
I mean, it represents how.
Represents
representation.
Yeah. So. The idea is...
It's because our eye is trained to associate certain things. Right. I mean, in the 19th or 18th century, they had those weird ties that don't exist. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea is, in the same way, what social media now... what's the word? Symbolizes, in a way, is that because for us, we didn't grow up through Facebook, right? I mean, I think I was through high school when I first had a Facebook account.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I was an early adopter.
Really? I was I think 11, 12.
Figure, right?
I know.
Can you guys guess that? I'm like, because I went to a school that was one of the first 5 schools to start. In fact, half of the movie Social Network takes place in the town where I went to college, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went to Stanford, right? So it was all at Palo Alto, right?
Okay.
So I knew a lot of these people, a lot of the early Facebook people. I saw a Social Network with Moskowitz was in the room, right? So a lot of these people, right? And I think I got on it in 2007 because I went abroad.
Damn.
And then suddenly I missed everybody back home, and I was like, "This is so." So he grabbed me in, but so many times I've gotten off it, and then I get back on. I get off
exactly
it.
how
right,
I started.
because I resisted because it's. I mean,
that's exactly.
media, right?
No, I've never gotten off Facebook because
I did it for 3 years, man.
No, like because
were those not the best 3 years of your adult life? Be real. Those were not the best 3 years of your adult life.
I kept missing out on things.
Do you have a fear of missing out?
Yeah.
FOMO.
Because I actually enjoy missing out.
Not really. No, like
I enjoy missing out because there's a lot of things I do rather not deal with.
So because of the amount of information that we're trying to hold in, how many people here remember other people's birthdays?
I don't remember my own.
You know what I mean? So like it had actually created some form of dependency in a way.
So now you got better at remembering people's birthdays when you got off.
Yes and no, because like I had to talk to my brother who was abroad. there's not that many ways of communicating, because back then it was like through like Facebook's texting. There wasn't even Messenger, I think. So
back in the day, I used to use Yahoo Messenger, I think, to communicate with my cousins, and it was just tedious and tiresome. And then Facebook came along, and I was like, okay. I got on it. I think there's a couple of other sites I tried before Facebook. There was one called High Five, and
I remember High Five.
Yeah, that was big in Ethiopia. It didn't really pick up anywhere else, I think. Yeah. Then there's MySpace, which didn't pick up in Ethiopia, but everywhere else, that was the thing. And Facebook kind of happened everywhere, and I got on that. And I never really had trouble with Facebook. So I never really had trouble with social media. I have an Instagram page, 0 posts, but I don't know why people follow me. I always pick this up. I have followers that follow me for absolutely no reason. I have 0 posts.
Because it's part of the social interaction.
And
if you follow me, I have to follow you back.
I don't get that.
If you have an Instagram, I have to follow that account.
I don't
if you
get
have a
that.
Facebook, I mean, I don't use Facebook that much now. It's
thing,
It's basically a birthday reminder. Honestly, that's what it is for me right now.
I don't celebrate people's birthdays.
I'm a good person. See, this is the difference.
Again, if I don't celebrate my own, I can opt out of celebrating yours.
Others, yeah.
But part of me feels like, of course, what this does is, and this is one of the arguments of social dilemma, is there has to be time for you to be bored. Yeah. It's important that human beings be confronted, and that they don't always have the distraction of, I have some empty time, I'm waiting for the bus. Okay, I'll take out my phone. Yeah. Okay, I'll take out my phone. Okay, I'll take out my phone. And the mind is always pleased.
It's an addiction. Yeah. It's cigarettes. It's chewing gum. It's worse than I mean
you get off cigarettes.
Depends.
You can't get off social media without losing a big chunk of your not just social life but now work. Yeah. Work, a lot of it is on social media.
I mean, that's precisely why I used Instagram. Right. Why I started Instagram. You can
still make a living without smoking a pack of Marlboros, right?
Yeah, I mean,
look at this. For example, right now.
Yeah.
I don't think any one of us have TikTok accounts.
No, never had.
Right?
Never
Yeah. And how childish do you think it is right now?
Goodness.
Right?
I've always thought that. I've never had it. That's why.
My point. Yes,
I'm gonna have it. I know it's inevitable.
We all believe that, right? But for someone who's a teenager right now, who already has a phone, what 5th grade, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I had it when I was in 9th grade, so it's like it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So.
Somehow I have it on my phone. I don't know why. I have not an account, but I have the app. I have the app, and I'm getting notifications without having an account.
So
the intrusiveness of this.
Have you ever opened it?
You've opened it?
No, I don't think so. Maybe somebody else used it on my phone or something.
If you've seen a video, you're gonna get a notification.
Okay. See, I get notifications from TikTok all the time, and I'm like, I don't even. I barely know. That, by the way. No, I know, but I'm just.
You have gotten it. One.
It's not that pesky. It's just interesting to me.
Open it once and you're hooked. That's so like what TikTok did is for most of platforms you need to have an account sign in and then be able to see things, right?
No.
But for them, look at the content. They don't care. They'll still the algorithm is growing.
And they're still harvesting data.
Yeah.
Sure.
So because at least if they don't know what you want, they still know what the country wants, right? Because you're in Ethiopia and then you're still scrolling, so they now have data on how the country functions. Maybe not that specific IP, but how the whole country functions. Because you're skipping through some content midway. For some, you just look automatically and then scroll away. For others, you're repeating it. And then as soon as you try to like it or try to share it to someone, you got to log in.
Yeah.
Then you need an account.
I mean, you can still share. There's ways around it.
Yeah. It's a hook. Yeah. So the point I was going to was we think TikTok is ridiculous right now, right? And it's completely pointless. But for most teenagers, they believe that they need that as much as we believe people need Facebook accounts, right?
And I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But it's also see this is getting back to the point. I was thinking about this for a while about how Ethiopia is different, right? Because we're talking or the relationship, the back and forth between the modern, the external, all the stuff that we're exposed to, that the vast majority of people in Ethiopia, especially in Qatar, have no consciousness of, right?
Yeah.
And how what a strange thing that is. It's almost like these Trojan horses that are introduced into So Ethiopians, one thing I noticed about Ethiopians, both for good or for bad, this has to, one of our first conversations on here was about Yilunta and all this over socialization and people gossiping about each other and masmasa, like pretending gurabacha, study Afro. That's very much Ethiopian society.
That's one facet of Ethiopian society. Yes.
Yeah. And of course it's a facet of every society, but here it's
a dominant facet.
You notice it a lot more than in the States, where there's this rugged individualism thing.
Yeah.
Even Europe, they're obsessed with society in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's
they
like
push individualism.
They're obsessed with it in one sense, but in your daily life, people are kind of isolated and lonely, and in a way that's kind of nice because you're not subjected to the constant gossiping and the constant backbiting and the constant, this obsession with appearances and all that, which and a lot of people who come from over there find deeply, deeply frustrating, right? So because it's all about pretending. It's all about pretension, right? But this is also, Ethiopians are a very communal people. We're very socialized. Maybe it has to do with our economy. Maybe it has to do with our culture. I don't know. But I think everyone would agree. Ethiopians are just much more social. Sociable, socially aware, a lot less narcissistic. Maybe that has to do with the fact that we're Ethiopia, and that might be changing in certain areas of Ethiopia now. Yeah. But maybe some of that has to do with... Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is people here aren't as immersed in technology, in television, in distraction as... I mean, in the States...
We're not,
growing up in the States means sitting and watching TV all day. That's what it is. Yeah. Especially the suburbs, right? And that's the other thing, right? The concept of suburbia is a very new thing in Ethiopia. Suburban life, it's either Qatar or is it now suddenly Addis Ababa has outskirts and there's a little bit of a feeling of suburbia. Yeah. But still then, you're still basically a city person. Yeah. Or so suburbia also intensifies this, suburban ennui, suburban boredom. But whatever it is, I mean, what do you guys think how does our relationship to technology and all this distraction that we've been talking about, how is it different or similar being in Ethiopia? Versus, and being, in this very, specifically the over-socialization of Ethiopians versus the way it is in the West or in the States in particular?
I think our circle is a bit too bougie, I think, for this because, I mean, most of the people we knew had phones before they finished high school.
I've had a phone for, 13 years, 15 years probably.
More than 15 years, my friend. Same thing. 15 years, me too. So, and the amount of social interactions that we have are with like-minded people. I mean, you're in Addis. I mean, I remember when...
By the way, I've had a phone for about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
20 years, but I was there.
We were in high school, man.
Right. Okay, so I'm also much
16 years, I was probably, 8th grade, 9th grade? No, probably 9th grade, 10th grade.
If it was 15,
I remember
11th,
being I'm old enough to remember people being grossed out, myself included, that suddenly 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds were getting phones. Yeah. And it's for emergency situations or this.
Yeah, that's how I got my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I was late to get a phone because that was a method of control of my parents and I didn't want one. So every time my grandfather bought me my first phone and I just kept it at home. Yeah. I refused.
Ironically, I felt the same way. I had
some people it's a method of liberation. And some people it's a method of...
It was a method of control for me because anytime they'd call and I'd have to pick up and tell them where I am and they'd tell me to put my maid on and if I wasn't home, I wasn't going to let... So I'd just keep it at home, tell my parents I wasn't allowed to take it to school.
What was the point about phones? We were talking about getting our first phones and...
Yeah.
What does this have to do with?
The over socialization. I mean, most of our generation, I think, is kind of used to it. Yeah.
I remember when we were in I think middle school, and we used to go through. We had a service, so it was like a van that would pick up a bunch of kids and then drop them off at their houses. Do the same thing. Imagine a school bus if it was privately owned. So we remember watching a dude herding donkeys using a phone. And we were in high school, and we were dumbfounded. How in the world does this person? Why would he need it? Because we didn't have phones back then. I remember, so we were so confused. How could he afford it? Why does he need it? What would he do with it? And now, you see how cheap and accessible and part of daily life, right?
I mean, without getting into politics, one of the things that always amazed me was people who understood that you could mobilize people in the rural areas in Ethiopia 10, 12 years ago, and now increasingly so with smartphones. But wait a second, where are they charging these phones? There's not even electricity everywhere. Wait a second, and it's, for some of us, it's hard to conceptualize what daily life is like for people over there. But in a situation, we have these leaps of technology also in Ethiopia, I noticed, right? Like, I think I mentioned this on here before. Like, I love how we got cell phones, but we skipped all the stuff with the call waiting, the pagers and whatever, all that stuff. And we're in a country where we went straight from rotary phones to cell phones to social media apps and skipped giant stages.
The one thing you can never the one thing I can say proudly about who we are is we can really adapt.
Yeah.
Because in terms of like a phone, for example, same way, right? So someone comes from
most people don't even have voicemail still.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Still,
I don't.
I mean,
we skipped over voicemail.
There's the option, by the way.
Yeah.
There is the option to have
but nobody uses
voicemail.
it. It's not part of our
because
thing. We skipped that.
I mean,
no, because no one wants to hear themselves recording themselves. That's specifically why.
It's like an Ethiopian thing, you think?
Yeah, because it's pretentious. I feel like it's pretentious because
our landline used to have voicemail.
Yeah.
So like if we weren't at home, they could leave us a message, and like my parents didn't use it. I recorded a message.
What was the message?
I told them. I recorded it when I was like, when I was in 5th grade or something.
Exactly.
Right?
You're a child. That's why.
I was a child, and I saw the practical aspect of this.
I understand. But
and I recorded a message, and I say, "This is the Solomon's family. If you obviously in Amharic, if you're hearing this, we're not home.
Yeah.
So please leave us a message." And that didn't work, and people would just hang up. And I said, at least tell us who this is, so that we can call you back. And I would hear them say, "Hey, betaydalum," and hang up.
So you're saying that these leaps, at least that one, but possibly other leaps, are not purely a function of technology. They're not purely a function of the economy.
Societal.
They might be part of our communal, our cultural tendencies that are different. Right?
So how do people react when they think you're recording their voice?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to know that they're being recorded on something.
Yeah.
That's why when you take out a camera, most people look away. No one's trying to
People
photobomb.
that would record themselves.
Yeah.
Or not aren't willing to be recorded if it's not consensual.
Exactly.
No.
Because you don't see anyone trying to photobomb here a lot, do you?
Nope.
You see people doing TikToks and then other people avoiding them.
Right.
It's because of that, we still have that culture thing. But in terms of adaptation, so someone who comes from a rural area comes to town, tries to sell something, right? Whatever they were carrying when they came. So if it was either cattle or actual like wheat, whatever they're selling. Once they come here, they see that they don't actually have to come all the way here to know what the price is, how to manage it, what's needed, what's not. They can just have a phone. So they started taking out phone numbers here and then going back.
Sure, yeah.
So how they charge it, I remember like when there was a guy that we knew who used to come over like every 4 months or something. So he'd be there, he was a farmer, so he'd farm the whole time. And then he'd come here to sell what he was...
whatever he was peddling.
He was selling. And then during his stay here, he'd work in on construction sites as a laborer. Mm-hmm. And then would go back. Mm. So most of the time, like for 2 days, his phone is like switched off. And then, but on specific days, which were market days, like I think it was Thursday and Saturday where he was, the marketplace had chargers. So people would go there, they would buy stuff, charge their phones, talk for a bit, and go back home. So he'd either switch it off every night he sleeps, and then turns it back on. If he forgets it, then the battery dies. So there was a whole adaptation system into how the phones would actually work for people that went just twice to marketplaces. But if you make it a bit more urban, again, the adaptation keeps on coming. Because for example, now you used to be able to charge your phone at souks.
Yeah.
Forget that. They used to actually call people from souks. So if you didn't have a phone, we used to do this because
you just walk up to a shop and then like they'd give you their mobile phones. You'd call your friend, give them some money and walk away.
Yeah, it was like they cost you per minute, so it was like 50 cents or like one. It was 50 cents. Yeah. So and first it was through actual phones, then it became mobile phones.
Yeah,
decentralized payphone.
And then at a certain point in time, they realized that everyone has a phone, so they stopped doing that.
We got rid of payphones. So payphones in the States, growing up in the States, payphones were like a very central thing, right?
Yeah.
Superman goes into a phone booth, right? Like that's just like a part of. How many movies do you see where somebody's in a situation, they go and they get a payphone, right? Yeah. Now I understand the use of this, but see, I now this might sound paranoid a little bit, but we know that people, corporations use certain opportunities, right?
Yeah.
I go to the States recently. I was there last year to handle some business, right? First time in many years, right? Okay. I'd skipped the whole Donald Trump era.
Oh wow!
I didn't see America under Trump.
Okay.
But that wasn't an intentional thing. But I go back.
Sure. Yes.
No, it really wasn't. Okay. So I go back. Yeah. And I start noticing that everything that the virus and all these technological advances and all these things are perfectly set up. So for someone like me who's transitional there, I was forced, if I wanted to be able to use a phone,
you were forced to buy.
I had to go, not just buy when they used to have Go phones, right?
Yeah.
They used to have all these. You would have to go in. I went into every AT&T and this kind of that. Really? I had to borrow a phone from a relative, which was kind of a hassle, right, for everybody. But I had to go into and find some way to get on some kind of plan, Seriously? But they make it so difficult. You go into AT&T and it's suddenly a 6-month contract minimum. Seriously? On top of the price of the phone.
No more burners, no more
burners. And they use. So here's an even worse thing. I'm like, okay, well, I spent half of my time there with family and half of the time at hotels.
Yeah.
Both in LA and San Francisco.
Okay.
You know that all the hotels now, I didn't go to the fanciest hotels, but, decent mid-range hotels. I would ask, so I have a phone in my room, right? And they're like, yeah. But you can only call within the area code, within the immediate area code, which is usually less than a city, less than a town, right? It's like It's like if you can only call Bore while you're in Addis Ababa, and you can't get a payphone, and nobody wants to give you their phone because there's coronavirus. Yeah. And then nobody trusts you. You're a black guy, especially, that you might run away with the phone. You can't use the phone in the airport. Yeah. Right. You can't. It's like. And so every time I was anywhere where I had to meet somebody or whatever, it was like such a pain, right? Like when I would miss my relatives. I would, you know what I mean? I whenever anything like that would come up, and I thought about it. What is this advantage? And everything was like, use Google Voice, use Google this, use Apple that, blah blah blah. And this was all the virus and certain aspects of technology. The fact that we don't need the phone booth anymore. We don't need payphones anymore. People would still sometimes like a payphone because sometimes people don't have their phone. Their phone gets stolen. Yeah. Right. What if your phone gets stolen? You lose your phone. Right. You're stranded then. Right. So what happens is all of this is used to consolidate the position of the AT&T, of the Google,
I don't think we've gone that worse because here, if you do lose your phone, you can still walk up to a souk and be like, someone stole my phone and call.
Because of our socialization.
The guy might be nice enough to call. He's not even going to charge you for it.
Right. He's not going to charge you for it. He's going to call. He's going to put it on speakerphone. You're not touching that phone, but he'll still call for you.
Yeah. Because we have still the concept of neighborhoods. Now, this has also changed in Ethiopia in the last 30 years, since the beginning of the opening up to the international level order, right? Yeah. Which is a lot of these informal mechanisms, a lot of these informal intricate webs of social connection are kind of going away. They're kind of eroding as a result of this exposure. Yeah. But in the States, you cannot reliably ask somebody, "Can I use your phone?" Especially if you're a black guy, especially if but people will be like, "What?" Like, you know what I mean? You can't reliably go into a hotel restaurant and be like, "Hey, I'm stranded. Can I use your phone?" People will be like, "Well, listen, any homeless person can walk in." Everybody, this is one of the aspects of everybody kind of living the American dream or their rugged individual thing. Whereas in Ethiopia, we still have some communal sense.
Some of it, because it all depends on.
You can ask in a taxi.
That's the thing. I wouldn't call for anyone. I wouldn't let anyone use my phone.
In a taxi.
Anywhere.
It's good. In a hotel. It's isolated, man.
In a hotel.
They're not going anywhere.
I don't care. It's like the idea that someone else had a conversation on that phone, and that person is now going to call me. You understand?
I don't mind that.
I really, trust me, I mind people I know calling me sometimes. So,
okay.
Let alone strangers calling me at random times. Yeah. And that is rapidly deteriorating. So, shops. It depends on what you're dressed like, what you look like. They're gonna
definitely.
Trust you. You ask someone on the road to use their phone, they're gonna size you up before
they let you use their phone.
I'm worried about that. I mean, I do not give random.
I mean, back in the day, like there's a time my mom came home with a random stranger. And she told me, she lost her money and she didn't have anywhere to go, so I invited her home for lunch. Yeah. Then she gave her money and sent her on her way.
Well, I mean,
I never do this.
Yeah. I mean, this is Yaduro. So I mean, in Homer, in Homer's Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
It starts where nobody knows who this guy Ulysses is.
Yeah.
He shows up there, but first thing you do, this is the ancient thing like that. Somebody shows up in your island or some wayward traveler. The first thing you do is you feast them for 3 days, and only then can you ask them their name. Right. This is the basis of old world hospitality, old world generosity. Now it's like, oh, you want to use my phone? Oh, you might have coronavirus. Oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you must be like some wandering homeless person.
Yeah.
As opposed to, dude, I lost my phone. Right. That's you know what I mean. Yeah. It's this is what happens in modern world, and sort of the isolation.
Yeah.
And I fear that we are kind of headed in that direction.
Oh, we're definitely heading there. For the mistrust, by the way, the reason that happens is because even thieves, people that actually steal your phone, do these little gambits or schemes or cons, which whatever you want to call them, that people have had their phones stolen from them in the same way. People used to ask if well-dressed people would come into a cafe, order something, and then when they see someone next to them, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of lost my phone. Can I call a friend? Because I told them I'll meet him here, and they don't know how to find me." So, and then people would be like, "He's dressed well. He's sitting in a cafe with me." They give him the phone. Dude will talk and then just wander slowly to the door and then just leave.
I'm pretty sure there's thieves richer than I am. Yeah. And I've gotten to the level of mistrust where I wouldn't tell people the time. Right? I started wearing a wristwatch just because I didn't want to take my phone out. And the wristwatch was uncomfortable, so I just, like, when someone asks me what time it is, I just tell them I don't know.
Just guess, it looks like, no, really, it's like, it's probably, like, I mean.
The reason why this mistrust happens
the whole joke, like, skin 30, as you're pulling your first. No,
past lunch,
but I mean, it is impressive. Sorry to cut you off real quick. It is impressive and understandable given the value of phones compared to any other way of them getting it. The techniques and the specific strategies that the lebas, the thieves use to grab. I mean the soccer moves that they use to kick up the phone from the wall. Or the one thing that really pisses me off, not because of the stealing, but it's really disgusting, is the whole spitting thing. You'll be walking down Addis Ababa and people will spit on you, and that's so that they can offer you water so they can distract you.
I don't really mind the spitting. Because it's washable. Yeah, there's property damage when they cut your jacket.
Oh, cut your jacket. Yeah. Right.
Then, like,
that's like an old school move, though. That's so 90s.
My dad just got robbed like that. Yeah. What? Yeah. He was in a taxi and they cut his jacket, took his wallet and his phone. And
at least they don't stab you, right? Sometimes they stab you.
Yeah, I mean, this was daytime.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a fantastic jacket. I used to love that jacket. I got that for him.
Way more than your phone, right? Worth way more than
your phone. I genuinely
I'll give you the phone and you spare my jacket.
Yeah. Back in the day when I switched neighborhoods, I used to walk, especially if it's nighttime, I used to walk with my wallet and my phone in my hand.
Right.
So if anyone came up to me, I'd just give it to them.
Right.
Hopefully he doesn't get stabbed. Yes.
Yeah.
But see, this is an interesting thing as well, because getting back to the whole relationship, the technology and some of the relationship between Ethiopia and our traditional society and the modern world, is when you're walking around with something of such immense value to 90% of the population that you just have in your pocket, or that you're walking around and talking into. And people are looking at it with these, like, harvesting it with, their eyes like, dude, grabbing that can change my week, maybe my month.
Probably.
And if I grab like 10 of those, I can survive this year as opposed to starving.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't really think about it, people who have a certain economic background.
Yeah.
But you see, this is another thing that happens with technology. Suddenly everybody's got portable phones, portable laptops, portable computers. This creates a certain dynamic when the economy is such that for a lot of people, I mean, I even notice it in the States, like, it's one thing if I pull out my tablet and I'm riding an Amtrak subway from the suburbs into New York. It's another thing if I take it out in the subway and I'm out in Brooklyn or something. Suddenly people are ogling that tablet, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful in what you. But here it's like 10 times more of an issue than it would be in the outer boroughs of Brooklyn or something.
Definitely. So, as like it's always funny to me the amount of like latest technology that we get in this country, the latest car models that we get in this country. Back in the day, we used to be I don't know, 5-6 years behind the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Movies. We used to be behind the rest of the world.
3 years, right?
At least, yeah. 2 or 3 years, at least. So technology, it was at that pace, right? Nobody had a phone in their car. Nobody had those like
walkie-talkie cell phones.
Walkie-talkie cell phones.
Yeah, they were around for like a year, and then suddenly we had caught up. Yeah.
Yeah, like who was that? Gordon Gekko. That's what I remember when I see those phones, right?
Right from the 80s. Yeah.
We never got that in this country. Right. We just saw that in the movies.
Right,
in
for
the
a very
90s.
long time in the 80s and 90s in the West.
Yeah.
Cell phones were like a sign of like ridiculous wealth.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, that person has a cell phone, they have a car phone, they have this and that. And then suddenly it became everybody's got one. And then suddenly the big thing like 20 years ago, around the millennium, was small phones. This phone is so small. The phone is getting smaller and smaller. Like, oh my goodness, like
it's gonna fit in your ear next.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's probably just Alamudi that had.
Do you remember Palm Tops?
Car phones, huh?
Palm Tops.
Oh yeah, those PDAs
and the BlackBerry and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was like Palm Tops.
Yeah, I always thought it was weird that you have to have a pen.
Yeah.
And then you're writing on the. And then as soon as iPhone came out, it became really obsolete, right?
Yeah.
I actually wrote about this guy. You know the writer David Foster Wallace? You guys familiar? American writer. He was like considered one of the great genius writers of his generation. He committed suicide in 2008. He has a beautiful lecture that he gave as a commencement speech in 2005 at Kenyon College. It's called "This Is Water." You can find it on YouTube. "This Is Water," right? Okay. So written a lot of great novels or whatever. A depressive, kind of. Obviously, he was also a great tennis player. Like he was like a tennis champion, really? Like nationally ranked or something like that. Yeah. He was a great tennis player and he wrote about tennis as well. So David Foster Wallace was really fascinated with this concept of the degradation that technology brings about. Because it's part of like, he's an anti-postmodern, he's a postmodernist, but like reacting to postmodernism and not happy with the service economy and the fact that everybody's so coddled, and especially television. Like he's like from the first generation of writers who grew up watching television. And he's like the remote control, that's when we screwed ourselves. Like we're too comfortable. We're too soft in American society, especially upper middle class, white American society. That's the whole thing. We're too comfortable. We're too soft. So what I find really ironic is he's talking about the dangers of television, dangers of technology, and this intrusiveness. So one of the concepts in his most famous book, Infinite Jest, which I find really fascinating, is the entertainment. So the book is set in the near future. And one of the things is there's these technology of video cartridges. This is in the 90s, where they thought video cartridges might be the future, right? So there's video cartridges, right? And one of these cartridges, just watching video, right?
Yeah.
One of them is called The Entertainment. And it's so mesmerizingly entertaining, and this is obviously a metaphor for entertainment in general, that you watch it and you become so transfixed that you can't get up from your seat. You can't go drink water, so you end up dying of thirst or of hunger, right? So the more mesmerizing, more transfixing entertainment is, it's going to lead to a horrific death as a result of being completely transfixed, right? It's a brilliant idea, right? That he put that in the book.
Dark.
Right? Yeah, it's dark. It's dark. Even the guy killed himself. But although if you listen to "This Is Water," it's actually a really beautiful, really uplifting speech. So he was very much trying to be uplifting and
it's a commencement speech. Yeah.
But I just find it fascinating. Yeah, of course. I find it fascinating coincidental, sad that he died in 2008. Yeah. What happened 6 months previous? Apple's iPhone.
Yeah.
And David Foster Wallace died right at the cusp of when the smartphone era began, and then a couple years later the tablet era, and right as social media, when Facebook was switching from being a college thing to being a global thing, right? Yeah. And he 2008 is right at the cusp. Right when I graduated is when he died, and it's right at that cusp where the intrusiveness took on a whole new level. So all the stuff that he was writing about.
Bitcoin happened.
2008. There you go.
Full circle
there
to
you go.
our conversation.
2008, right?
Yeah.
So.
Damn.
I don't know how that led. We got from that from
attention deficit.
So should we wrap up?
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting place to wrap up.
Yeah. Guys, thanks so much for coming on. Please come by anytime. Always have such great conversations with you. Nahom, this was a great first time.
Yes, thank you.
For us all. We'll wrap up. So you've been listening to Ras Temari Radio, Offense Necessary, where we discuss everything but politics. Have a good night.
All right.